How cognitive distancing can calm a racing mind. Anxiety can be a cyclical nightmare. Your thoughts overwhelm you, and this produces physical and mental stress. Too much stress regularly can be a ticking time bomb that threatens your health. It doesn't help that a self-fulfilling prophecy can take place. Your anxious mind makes it tough to deal with what's happening. To escape this anxiety, your mind tries to predict what terrible things could happen. Instead of helping you, this makes you more anxious, and a cycle of stress and anxiety continues to feed off each other. This leads to more overthinking and needless worry that often results in some nightmare scenario you have imagined. Some people attempt to ignore anxiety. They push their thoughts down without dealing with them. In many cases, this only strengthens the negative what-if power of your brain to imagine terrible outcomes. Fortunately, there are different ways of dealing with anxious thoughts. One way is to employ a method called cognitive distancing. Think like an ancient Greek philosopher. Cognitive distancing helps you put a little space between yourself and what's bothering you. It teaches you to look at anxiety differently. It's something the Stoic philosopher Epictetus understood rather well. He stated, "It's not things that upset us, but rather our opinion about things." A thing, event, or situation doesn't make us feel good or bad. It is simply something that is happening. It's when we decide to attach a particular emotion to an event or circumstance that our judgment can get us into trouble. Cognitive distancing keeps this from happening because it reminds us that our thoughts are only a prediction of what our reality is going to be. They aren't reality itself. Our thoughts are often negative because our mind is trying to prepare us for the worst possible outcome. It sees this as the best way to prevent or at least be ready for a particular result. When this happens and anxiety runs high, there are 3 ways cognitive distancing can help. 1. Take on a third-person perspective. Imagine that your feelings are those of someone else. How could you help that person handle the situation in the best way? 2. Remember that you can only control how you react to the world. You often can't control what happens. In every instance, you have control over the thoughts, beliefs, and feelings you apply to an event or circumstance. You can distance yourself from something emotionally rather than let it have power over you. 3. Remember the quote from Epictetus. It's not things that upset us, but rather our opinion about things. This reminds us that our thoughts are the issue when we become anxious. It's not what happened, but how we decide to process that information. These are 3 ways to use cognitive distancing to calm an anxious mind. Try them the next time you can't seem to get anxiety under control. Left to its own devices, anxious thinking can cause health problems that can be avoided by addressing the problem like the ancient Greek Stoics did. How to label your thoughts for less anxiety and stress. The more time you spend breaking down your thoughts, the less power they have over you. You can choose which thoughts you want to spend more time with. This gives you control over where you put your focus. You decide what thoughts you want to embrace, rather than letting negative thoughts get you worked up and stressed out. This is an anxiety-relieving method called labeling your thoughts. When one of the thousands of random daily thoughts pops up in your mind, please don't give it energy right away. Ask yourself what type of thought it is. You're not paying attention to the actual content of the thought. Instead, put it in one of the following groups. Criticizing thoughts. Do you ever find yourself in critical mode? You question how successful you are, how you look, or some other aspect of your life. We all do this from time to time. It's a thought process that attempts to help us improve but can create so much anxiety. Sometimes we buy into the thought and believe it to be true, even when it's not close to reality. These are critical thoughts. They should be labeled as such. Judging thoughts. When you place judgment on something, these thoughts get the judging label. A judging thought happens when you decide to assign a value to how bad or good something is. Worrying thoughts. A lot of our worry is unnecessary. Most of it is, actually. We worry about things that haven't happened yet and probably never will happen. These are worrying thoughts, and they can cause so much needless anxiety and stress. If you obsess over a loss or think about how you might fail in the future, those are worrying thoughts. Labeling your thoughts gives you some time to notice them. Not all thoughts are negative. You may have happy thoughts and memories that make you smile. There are motivating thoughts that you can use to drive yourself to bigger and better achievements. You have thoughts of positive anticipation, like looking forward to an upcoming vacation. Whatever thoughts you experience, good or bad, stepping away from them is important. Label them. This gives you a little distance from them. It keeps you from getting swept up in your thoughts and emotions. Then you can decide which thoughts you will embrace and spend time with. How writing your anxious thoughts can help you slow a racing mind. Anxiety can cripple you into indecision. It can do the opposite as well. Your panic builds until you rashly take action that doesn't produce the greatest result. That's why dealing with anxious thoughts is important when they pop up. It's never the best practice to ignore them and hope they disappear. If you do that, you're liable to find they have a lot of company. Your brain will move on to some other anxious thought related to what you were already thinking. Fear, panic, and dread show up to support their good friend anxiety, and the odds that your thoughts lead to inappropriate actions skyrocket. It's best to process negative thoughts and feelings when they appear. Don't judge yourself. Most of the thousands of thoughts you have every day should never be acted upon. They're your brain processing information and trying to steer you toward your best outcome. If you often let negative thoughts affect your quality of life, start writing them down. Go old school with a pen and paper. People use the term old school to refer to the way things used to be. In this case, we are talking about taking a pencil, pen, or marker in your hand and physically writing your thoughts on paper. You may even want to create an anxiety relief journal. However you decide to go about it, you want to give your anxious, fear-based thoughts life and write them down. Don't worry about being the greatest writer of all time. Punctuation and grammar don't matter. Just get your thoughts out there. You'll find that they will often lead to other thoughts. Get everything off of your mind and down on paper. Then, walk away for a few minutes. Practice deep breathing exercises or take a walk around your neighborhood. If your anxiety returns, tell it to go away, and you will deal with it shortly. Go back to what you wrote. Read it as if you are seeing it for the first time. Do you feel the same way? Can you think of another way to look at the situation that isn't so negative? You'll find that writing out your thoughts, much like speaking them, is often all you need to do to get them out of your head. Some people write about their anxieties and fears and then burn the paper they wrote them on. They envision anxious feelings leaving their mind and returning to a place of peace and calm. Whether you ignite your troubling thoughts or not, this is a proven way to remove the sting of anxiety. It gives physical life to your thought process and reminds you that you can choose to think anything you like, positively or negatively. Quieting your anxious mind is as simple as keeping an ongoing to-do list. Anxious thoughts can be paralyzing. You worry so much about doing the wrong thing that you don't do anything at all. Sometimes taking any action is better than no action. While you might know this, motivating yourself to do much of anything is hard when those anxious thoughts take control. Anxiety causes your mind to put on blinders. It only allows you to believe in one possibility, and that possibility usually isn't very positive. Aside from making you feel really uncomfortable, this type of unbridled anxiety can cause problems. Your stress and anxiety levels are through the roof and negatively influence your actions. That can lead to many problems that could have been avoided with a simple to-do list. Change your focus from anxiety to action. The best magicians know how to distract you. They have you looking at one place when the action occurs somewhere else. Your brain can't believe what it's seeing. This makes the best magic tricks seem almost miraculous. You can do the same thing as a magician when you want to get a handle on anxiety. You distract your mind. Give it something else to think about. Instead of sitting and brooding over some anxious thought or perceived problem, you pull out your to-do list. You can always do things to improve your situation in some way. It seems like you always have laundry and groceries to shop for, and there's always some organizing or cleaning up you can do in your home. These are the perfect activities to put on your distracting to-do list. The idea is to always have a few items on this list. If you ever complete it, add to it. This needs to be something you can pull out at a moment's notice to channel your energy in its direction rather than focusing on an anxious thought. Include virtual tasks that aren't location-specific. Having a few items on your list that you can tackle anywhere is important. This is because anxiety won't always attack when it's convenient for you. You can balance your bank book just about anywhere. A lot of financial planning and goal chasing can be done on your smartphone or tablet, whether at work, at home, or just running errands. If all of your to-do list items occur in the home, what will happen when anxiety strikes at work or elsewhere? Keeping tasks on your list that aren't location-specific is important. You should be able to turn to your list as a distracting practice whenever or wherever you are. This not only relieves stress and anxiety, it also makes you much more productive and benefits you from getting more accomplished. What is cognitive diffusion, and how can it help you treat anxiety? Wouldn't it be nice to always have a calm, focused, and clear mind? You'd never be anxious and could always make a wise and objective decision. Physiologically, this would mean little to no stress, translating into fewer health problems. Unfortunately, though, we all get caught up in anxious thinking occasionally. This can quickly spiral out of control. You are running late for work. You have a bad habit of always showing up a few minutes late, and your boss has talked to you about this before. Your thoughts immediately turn negative. What if this is the final straw that gets you fired? How will you be able to pay your bills? Thoughts about having your vehicle repossessed and not being able to make your mortgage payment suddenly seem very real to you. You're focusing on your anxious thoughts so intensely that you run a red light and cause an accident. Now, you will have legal troubles, car repairs, and medical bills you may not be able to afford. All this happened because you became attached to your thoughts. Don't get fused to your thoughts. Diffuse yourself from them. 3 cognitive diffusion practices for less anxiety and a calmer mind. Neuroscientists will tell you that most human thoughts are negative. It's just the way our brains work. The reason why most people don't deal with constant depression and stress is that our amazing minds are usually able to distance us from our thoughts. We realize that our thoughts are just things and aren't reality. Sometimes, though, we become fused with a particular thought. We can't get it out of our heads. It causes tons of anxiety that can lead to destructive behavior and cause a lot of damage. This is where cognitive diffusion can step in and save the day. Here are 3 practices for using this anxiety-relieving technique for a calmer mind. 1. Imagine you are watching a raging river. You are safely standing on the bank of the river rather than being caught up in the fast-moving current. 2. When anxious thoughts come and go, imagine they are just clouds moving in the sky. They were there, then they are gone, powerless over you. 3. Notice the thought, and then thank your mind. After all, your mind is doing nothing more than trying to prepare you for what it thinks might happen. Notice the thought, remind yourself that it is just a thought and is not reality, then thank your mind for its opinion and choose a different thought. You don't have to become one with your thoughts. You actually shouldn't. Too many of them are negative and have no basis in reality. They are just your mind trying to predict the future. Thoughts can be helpful sometimes, but they can also cause many problems if you let anxiety build. Use cognitive diffusion to give you power over your thoughts rather than letting your thoughts have power over you.